Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Soo, your 2022 Oakland mayoral candidate. Well, as you see behind me, I got two more solar panels temporarily hooked up, put in place. I ordered some new mounts, so right now we're just waiting for the new mounting brackets to arrive. But right there you see 600 watts of solar energy being generated. And so sun's kind of overcast today because the storms that have rolled through here. We still have some high clouds that are kind of passing through, but we're watching the numbers on the controller right now and seeing how things go. But also folks are amazed that we have solar here, because we run both of those, the refrigerators. So right now we're charging up the battery bank, running the refrigerators, running my electronics, all on those 6 panels right now. Today is Flex Alert by the California ISO, and so people are being asked to cut back on their electrical use from 4 o'clock this afternoon up until 9 tonight. So it's going to be a warm day. Warm days, a lot of folks run their air conditioning and extra fans and a lot of things, puts a lot of load onto the electrical grid by the electrical utilities. And so by utilizing solar energy, like what I'm doing, number one, I'm an off-grid system, and there's also on-grid systems or grid-tied systems. And the problem with grid-tied systems is that while you are able to sell back to so-called PG&E here in the Bay Area for credit, should something go wrong with the grid in that particular zone and electric is knocked out, or you have a blackout, you're down, you're out, and you're without electricity. But by adding a simple transfer switch at the electrical incoming at the box, you can actually switch between grid-tied system and also off-grid system. And off-grid allows you so much more options when it's properly engineered and designed, and it fits the needs of that home. And so these are things that are we're still working on for the future, and saving folks a lot of money, also reducing the load on the utilities, because here in California, also in Texas, as you know, we do a lot of solar. And so when the sun goes down, we're no longer generating electricity. So the solar energy that's created by the utilities in at least those 2 states, our state, is insufficient at this time. And so new technologies are being developed to create new solar technologies, new ways of getting more out of the PV panels. In fact, I've been watching a lot of the new changes, technologies, actually even chemically changing some features on those panels. And so the good thing about this is that once you've paid for the system, and the system pays you back, typically anywhere from 3 to 7 years is your full return on your investment. And then after that, you're saving money. And so right here, since I don't have any PG&E, that is my source. And so this can also work for folks in a single family home. In high rises and apartments, not so much. And so what can I say about high rises and apartments? I am not an apartment person. I'm not a condo person. While I have lived in them for periods of time, doesn't mean that I liked it. I always, like most people, want a yard, some freedom, and your privacy. And in high rises, buildings, apartments, condos, you don't have that. You give that up, plus you give up your yard, your freedoms, your lifestyle. You make a radical change to your lifestyle by going into apartments, by going into condos and high-rise buildings, because while they may provide you with some other alternative forms like a gymnasium to work out in, computer rooms, things like that, they don't replace open space for you, your children, and your pets. Bottom line, here in Oakland, I'm against any high rises. I'm against any further construction of apartments and condos here in Oakland, because we don't need them. Number one, we have over 12,000 empty units already in Oakland. And so we have plenty of housing for folks. It's just finding ways to make that affordable. And so the economy will probably do some of that in the next coming years, as a lot of these developers will be filing for bankruptcy since they can't afford the loans that created those buildings. So here in a very short amount of time, we're going to see a lot of things changing in the housing market. A lot of these developers, like I said, will be filing for bankruptcy. They had already prepared for filings, and depending on how in debt they are, they may or may not come out of those bankruptcy proceedings here in the near future. But then what that also does, that opens up a lot of new available lower cost units. And here's what happens in the bankruptcy court: if they actually do a full bankruptcy where they're not going to exist again, those housing units that were created, the court will have a county auction, much like what happened up in Sacramento back in the mid 2000s when a Japanese corporation owned neighborhoods up in Sacramento near the Arco Arena. How do I know this? I have a personal friend who still lives in that zone, and he bought and he literally watched his neighborhood die, literally die, when the economy went bad and people had to give up their homes. Then the developer went bankrupt, and him and his wife were one of the very few people that lived in that area that were still there, because most people were renters. And this Japanese corporation, after filing the bankruptcy, going through bankruptcy, the county and the courts took all of that property to pay off debtors. They held an auction, and those homes that were going for $400,000 to $500,000 up there in Sacramento, now we're gathering barely $200,000 at auction. Even for the largest homes, I think went for about $250,000. So that's substantially less than what, actually 50% less of what they were originally going for, what their value was. And then because that corporation owned those, they filed bankruptcy, they had a tremendous amount of debt. And so that debt had to be repaid as much as possible. So the county took all of those properties, held a public auction for a month. It took Sacramento County nearly a month to get rid of all of those properties. And that, number one, devalued and revalued all the homes up in that region. And so homes that were going for $400,000 and now going for just about $200,000. So that put a lot of tax pressure on Sacramento County Tax Assessor's Office because of the loss of value and the property tax that they were charging those corporations. But also, the corporation didn't pay a lot of those taxes, and so the county lost all the way around until that auction. So anyway, today's a Flex Alert day. Reduce where you can, unless you're like me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be right back.